Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. This is Drew back with you. I was a little under the weather there last week, but luckily we got a best of show put together. Thanks, Shay, for that. Thanks, buddy. Got a lot coming out here, especially by way of news in and of itself. San Diego Comic-Con just occurred. A lot of stuff happening with a bunch of different publishers there. We're going to go into that later. But first, I want to talk about a show that is sweeping the nation here. And that is one you can catch on Netflix called Stranger Things. And some of you have already watched it, and if you haven't, you guys need to jump on this, okay? It's a Netflix original. It's only 8 episodes long, so it's an 8-hour adventure. It's a quick sit. If you want to watch it all in one business day, I'm sure you can, or you can take the weekend to do it. Most of the press involving this has been the delight that people are having with it being an 80s throwback. It's very early Amblin Entertainment. It's those old sort of E.T., Close Encounters mixed with a bit of that early Stephen King, John Carpenter stuff, because it takes place in 1983. So there's a lot of little, there's very much homage to 83 with the little references and stuff. And it follows mostly kids are the main characters, which gives that sort of Steven Spielberg type feel. But oddly enough, in this sci-fi / thriller TV show, there's seemingly, just looking at the cast, more questions than answers. And the star of the show is Winona Ryder. And for a lot of you out there, that are from the 1990 to now, you're wondering, who is Winona Ryder? And from those that grew up in the movies from the 80s, you're like, oh, she's still around? So Winona Ryder is the star of this film, or the series. And in other, weirdly enough, is that the sheriff in this town that's in the show, the guy that plays him, David Harbour, he's mostly known as being like a bad guy or kind of a jerk in other films that he's in. But in all honesty, his character itself can be a bit jerkish, and they go into a bit of his psychology and why he is the way he is in the very last episode. But even he's kind of against Cass in this. He's the sheriff, but he's not embroiled in being the logical character. He's really embracing a lot of the ridiculousness that happens in the show. And it starts off with the disappearance of one of these kids, and it turns into this show. It's a bit fantasy and it's a bit sci-fi. So those best elements working together to go through is there is a creature that is abducting folks, and you explain where that creature comes from. And then there's another kid that shows up in the show that exhibits certain powers that they have ESP, and that not to mind reading, but can track minds and able to follow and hear basically what they're doing and move her consciousness over to sort of view them. And the way that they put that together, the way that they put this character and the mission that she had and this creature that's abducting kids or really anybody, just easy targets. The way that they combine that is another great genius thing. The folks who created the show, they go by the name the Duffer Brothers, sort of similar as to the Wachowski brothers. Now I think they call themselves the Wachowski sisters. How they approached this, they created and wrote the show, have no problem acknowledging those things that you thought were familiar. So when people are like, oh, it's like Steven Spielberg or, you know, the Amblin Entertainment, like, yes. And they will flat out tell you that this is what they used as their inspiration for it. When the show starts off with the abduction of the kid, Winona Ryder plays the kid's mom, and so it follows her anguish and her attempts to communicate with him because she doesn't believe that he's dead, and he's trying to communicate with her basically in another dimension or reality. It's a fun show. It's a fun show, and in short of the last episode, it's not really that graphic of a show. It doesn't get bloody. It doesn't get graphic. It's not gratuitous with anything like that. Even the language used in the show there's not dropping a lot of, you know, F-bombs, and they're not slinging out a lot of adult language in the show. I mean, there's a few cuss words, but they keep it a lot of that suspense style very similar to what Steven Spielberg did in Jaws. You know, before they really showed the shark in it, they hinted at the power and the size, and that was basically just a trick because the machine wasn't ready yet. The big giant animatronic shark wasn't ready yet, so they had to do other things that would keep the suspense up but give you an idea. And this show does a little bit of that. Although it does kind of show what the thing looks like in flashes. You don't really get a full look out of it until way later on. It keeps it to that. Now, the last episode has it's not bloody graphic, but there's some kind of gross things that occur in it. So that might be a little damaging for young children to watch, but the show otherwise, you know, other than that, it can be a little scary for little kids, but if you got, you know, those preteens, those kids that are watching that they can watch a little bit more adult type things, it's a good show for them to watch and very fun for adults to watch as well. As previously stated, it is fun as a callback to those early films in that television, but it's also fun because it's just a well-written, well-paced, well-produced, thought-out story that needed the whole 8 hours to get done. And this isn't the end. So this is really sort of the first chapter. And I like that shows that are on Netflix or on Hulu or on Amazon Prime that are made in original format. I like that shows are now wanting to take their time and tell one single story in the span of, you know, your 8 or 10 or 13 episodes. And they do that very well on Netflix. They allow you to not have to put in, obviously you have your little moments, and I don't know why they make cliffhangers anymore for Netflix. You don't have to wait the next week. You can literally watch the episode right after that before the credits are even over. But they do that to make you want to keep watching, and now it's just easier access. But they are able to take something that, yeah, it could have been done as a movie if we wanted to rush this. Yeah, it could be in a TV show, but you want to make it, you know, this whole story would have been 1 or 2 hours. I mean, instead you can make it this full 8-hour, drawn out, or 10-hour type thing and develop those characters and keep the story going. You know, just that, and that's partly what suspense is. It's not having a wrap. They got to keep you on that line until the very end. And this show did really great. And the Duffer Brothers have already come out and said they have planned for more seasons. I don't know if they'll want to move to a longer, 10 episode type thing, or they're going to keep it 8 episodes long because they're more comfortable in that pocket. But it's going to follow the characters from season 1, which I was a little bummed about. I mean, I think it'd be cool also in a similar sort of Twilight Zone or Outer Limits style, where it's cool that you did this one story involving these particular types of sci-fi or fantasy magical things in 8 episodes, but it would be cool if in the next season you keep the same title. It's still called Stranger Things, but it's about a different thing. Maybe it's about aliens, and it follows a different group of people in a different year in a different town. And then the next season, we're doing it about, these parasites, like the ability to change it and still make it that sci-fi thriller type thing that was previously episodic but now spans the whole season. But they decided to go and continue to tell the story of these characters and bring in new ones and flesh that world out a little bit, which I'm not going to complain. I'm obviously hooked. I'm going to watch the next season. Again, Stranger Things, if you haven't watched it, it's exclusively on Netflix. Go peep it right now. It's only 8 hours, so it's well worth the watch and well worth the fun. All right, that concludes the first segment here for the show. When we come back, we're going to divide this up. A lot of stuff came out of Comic-Con this year. We're going to break this down in 2 different segments because we got a lot to talk about. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, we are back. It's the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. Now, as previously saying, San Diego Comic-Con kicked off, was here this last week and ran Thursday through Sunday, similar to that. Marvel came out. They didn't do a lot film-wise to present, and they didn't do a lot television-wise to present, but they just did enough to whet the appetite of everybody looking for their Netflix properties to come back. They did release a really great hype trailer for Luke Cage that does come out here this September. So for those of you that were just kind of sitting back and wondering when is Daredevil going to come back out or anything else, and Luke Cage wasn't even on the radar, it should be. Go ahead and try to find it. Go ahead and go on YouTube or on any website and find that Luke Cage hype video, and you're going to want to watch it come September, I guarantee it. Now, on top of that, not just Luke Cage, which they released that on the interwebs, but they put in, can you even call them teasers for some of these? Especially, first of all, they did do a teaser for Iron Fist. Okay, so they did do that. That's going to be the next one after Luke Cage that comes out. Iron Fist, for those of you who don't know, Danny ran a very similar type story of something like Green Arrow or Batman, came from a rich family. I think this one is his... He sort of gets stranded out there in the Far East, and he gets taken in by the group of the Iron Fist, and he's taught the way of the Iron Fist, and it's actually a sort of magic or power that he can summon when he fights. So he's, he is white, because that's the character, and he learns this, the ways of this culture, and he comes back home. So really the teaser had this welcome home, Danny Rand type thing. They have not revealed anything as far as what the costume is going to look like. Don't know if he will be in the regular Iron Fist costume a la Daredevil at the end of season 1, but they at least had some footage from the show involving, what actual production. So Iron Fist comes out next. Then there was you can't even call it a teaser, but it was still so cool for Daredevil. So, and that one, if you can find it, it's just a short clip. It's something is underground or something lives beneath or something like that. And it's, just the subway platform where it's it illuminates the number 3 and it's got the Daredevil on there. So teasing season 3 of that coming out. And it looks like they're going to go with the Daredevil season 3. Nothing really about a Jessica Jones season 2. However, they even extend further out than Daredevil season 3, and they give you another just a visual type teaser to the Defenders. So we will see, it's not going to be a movie, it's going to be a show, just a limited release show they're going to release that will be Daredevil, there will be Jessica Jones, there will be Luke Cage and Iron Fist teaming together to be the Defenders. Now, I don't know if this is going to come out before the Avengers Infinity Wars flick comes out. Because these characters, or at least Daredevil has been stated many, many times, are going to play into the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point. So do we see the Defenders team up before Infinity Wars? Do we see them come into that as a team already? Or does Infinity Wars happen, or at least Infinity Wars Part 1, then we see them come together in that movie, it then leads to the TV show? I don't know, because release dates of these things are a bit fluid. I don't know when Defenders is going to be coming out, but it looks like it's going to happen after Daredevil season 3, I guess. I don't know. So they put a lot of this stuff out there, but as far as timelines for release and stuff like that goes, I'm not sure. And apparently there was a bit of talk about why hasn't some characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe appeared in other Marvel TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And apparently it's all, it's contract stuff, it's business stuff, which I thought a lot of this was try to get around that so they can all play in the same sandbox, and now it's only by mentioning, but hopefully they will bring that in because Netflix has a deal with Disney. I hope there won't be a problem bringing in those characters from the Marvel TV shows, the Netflix TV shows. And Charlie Cox goes on all the time like, well, Daredevil is supposed to be in these ones, but it may not be me, which is, I don't know if he truly believes that or whether he's just trying to play possum, play dumb, but there's no way they're not going to have these guys appear in the cinematic universe. They're supposed to be in the same continuity. So looking forward to what they're doing in the making of those TV shows. It's a lot on their plate because they're just like, they know what the next 3 steps are, which is cool because that lets us know that they have a direction they're wanting to go in, and they've at least thought to some degree of what this is going to be. So Luke Cage hype video, teaser for Iron Fist, teaser for Daredevil season 3, as well as the Defenders, all happened at Comic-Con there, and that was pretty exciting. That was pretty cool, and all of those really got released. We also saw some footage coming from DC's side as well. They did a bit about the Court of Owls coming to Gotham, if you're watching Gotham. Now, the Court of Owls is something that really just came into existence, even the publication of Batman comics, only a few years ago when Scott Snyder really just created this. But since it's supposed to be an organization that goes so far back in Gotham's history, they're introducing that into the show. They did release a trailer here for Arrow Season 5. So we're going to see Arrow putting together a new team. So you won't see like Arsenal or Black Canary or any of those or people previously, at least not at this moment, that were in the last couple seasons. He gets some new vigilantes that apparently were inspired by him as the new team, and he's trying to train them up. And they also look like, and this is just a guess here, they're putting in like an imposter. He sort of dresses a little bit like Green Arrow. but he's a murderer, but honestly think it's just going to be Deathstroke in disguise. So I think that's ultimately going to be Deathstroke, but he's trying to impersonate, really to bring about and try to drag Arrow's name through the mud and confuse people there. So that they did reveal that. They got in a little bit to, as well as The Flash and what they're doing for Flashpoint in Season 3. We've discussed that at somewhat decent length there on previous shows. So Marvel and DC kind of keeping in step with each other as far as the releases of, teasers or trailers, whether it comes on the film side or it comes on the television side. So we saw a lot of that. Another thing that is able to add into is the season 7 of The Walking Dead. They've done there's some I believe some footage trailer action for that as well. But they also have that Vertigo works with. Preacher is another show on there if you're not catching Preacher. Or it's a very dark, very adult show. It's not like watching The Flash or watching. But it's not even like really watching something like Daredevil or that. I mean, the themes and everything there's no costumes, there's weird characters for sure, incredibly weird characters. But Preacher, AMC flick or AMC show, catch it on there. But yeah, DC Marvel just it's toe to toe, and it's hard to argue the success Marvel's having, not necessarily with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but with their Netflix shows, but the CW shows that DC's putting out with Arrow and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, just the volume that they have there. Legends of Tomorrow, you can also catch another trailer for season 2 of that. Again, they're going to be sans, at least, I don't know if they're going to keep Captain Cold dead as a character, but at least Wentworth Miller will not be playing him anymore because he has gone back to do the new Prison Break. And it's weird, they're bringing back Prison Break after a long hiatus. They're bringing back Gilmore Girls. Thanks, Netflix for doing that. I'm sure my wife will want to watch. She can watch that on her own time. I was never a big fan of the first go around of Gilmore Girls, and I don't really care about this next iteration. So, but that's coming back too. So, those shows, man, it's just lock and step. There's more news coming out from Comic-Con here in our next segment, so stick around. This is Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, everybody, we are back. Again, we're just going on a lot of stuff that came out of San Diego Comic-Con, not just in the realm of comics, not just realm of film, but in television as well. We talked about Marvel releasing their teasers for their Netflix shows, as well as DC coming out with Gotham, Flash, Arrow, and Legends of Tomorrow. Now, jumping to not one of those big two, but looking at another franchise stooped in history is that of Star Trek. We talked a little bit about there's going to be a new Star Trek series that's coming out, which the pilot is going to air on CBS, but then they're going to release the following episodes on their CBS on-demand type thing. So you would have to have a subscription to that, but they're going to do not I believe it's not going to be a week-to-week release. It's going to be you get to watch the rest of the episodes, kind of like how Netflix or Hulu does it. So that's what we're going to see. Star Trek Discovery, okay, finally got a name. It got a teaser. No cast yet. So the teaser basically just showed the ship. It looks very archaic, so I think it might be within the timeline of the new movies that are out. But that's the route they're going to. It's going to be Star Trek Discovery, and the ship is obviously going to be the USS Discovery, and it's in the they call it the Prime Universe. I guess they're wanting to do a continuation of the original Star Trek universe. So just to explain, to break it down there, the movies that we're getting right now are the ones with Chris Pine and Zach Quinto and those guys. That is the current Star Trek timeline, and then the ones that they refer to, like Leonard Nimoy Spock, William Shatner Kirk, those are considered Kirk Prime and Spock Prime. So the Gene Roddenberry, the 60s TV show, all the way through Picard that we know in Next Generation, and Cisco and Janeway and those ones, that is considered the Prime universe. So this is going to take place in the Prime universe, but probably in a time frame similar to the ones that the current movies are in. I know that's a little confusing to understand, and possibly even before the where these movies are. So like I said, the Discovery design of the ship is very crude. In fact, some of the producers have come out to say that may not even be the final design, which is kind of weird. You would give us a teaser, talk so much about this, and not even give us a definitive ship. But it's probably going to be... I mean, if they try to make the Enterprise show that as part of that Prime canon, I don't know, it could be between those types of things. So we're going to see where the timeline lies in. It's definitely going to be before Next Generation. That would be my best guess. And what they're trying to do in this show, and the producers have come out to do, is again, in a very socially forward type attitude, have a lot of minority characters, LGBTQ community characters, female characters. In fact, the biggest one going around right now, the biggest word is that we're probably going to see another female captain. So the first time since Janeway, which Janeway was in Star Trek Voyager, which wasn't the last Star Trek series that came out, it was Enterprise, so it was before Enterprise. So that was years ago we got a female captain. So that's more than likely going to happen, probably an African-American captain, which we've seen African-American captains before. I thought Cisco is probably my favorite captain, but he was commander most of the time, since Kirk. So that's going to be coming down the pipe. Again, they don't have a cast ready. They talked a bit about, there's a lot of hype revolving around it, but they haven't cast anyone. And honestly, because if they're saying that we could have a female captain, are there episodes even written? So much is known about the show, but so little is known about it too. I know what they want to do. They don't want to make it episode to episode. They are wanting to do a chapter by chapter of one particular story that they're going to put in their CBS on-demand thing. So they know the format that they're going to do, but we don't know who the characters are. They promise new characters, new aliens, new places, all that fun stuff, but we're not seeing any proof in the pudding there. In fact, the proof that we even have so far is a ship that is coming off the dock that may not even be the final ship. So it's very interesting what they're wanting to do, but we're not seeing too much in it. So a lot still has yet to come out about that, but it's enough to get people excited about the future of it. We at least have a name so far. For the longest time, it was just be calling Star Trek, and they got a logo, but now it's Star Trek Discovery. And that's got a lot of people excited. So Star Trek's on the way. We also see that The Walking Dead Season 7 is going to be starting off, it looks like exactly where Season 6 ended. So really the gang's all captured by Negan, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He takes his barbed wire, bat, very crude warrior style, and he kills somebody. So there's theories out there about who it is already that they've seen from the trailer, because they have posted a Season 7 trailer. And yeah, there's damage. The next season is literally going to start out from that particular moment. So right when season 7 starts, somebody dies. So, but it's not going to be, so it starts very fast and very dark and very brutal, but from all accounts, from people talking about it, it is going to expand from there. I mean, obviously somehow the gangs is going to get free. They're going to be on, obviously, at least Rick and Daryl are going to survive, which that's the only people who really care about. So, it looks like, I mean, they're going to go through quite a bit of anguish and stuff, but they eventually get free, obviously, or else you're going to have no show. You'd have to pick up with a brand new cast at that point. So that's coming down here. That should be starting sometime soon. I think it gets a fall release. So it does get very bleak. It does get from the get-go because there's no time span between the last season and this one. So a bit different of a dynamic that they're wanting to put on with that, because there was such a cliffhanger going on. And really from the cast, they didn't know it was going to be like that. It looks like they had filmed the death, the beating death part, but then they just cut it off at that point. So they thought they were going to get really the sort of down note of the death as to end the season. Instead, they ended up finding out when we go out to the cutting room floor is they were going to cliffhang it and wait till the next season to start with the death of a cast member. Very interesting, sort of an anti-Game of Thrones approach there, which going towards Game of Thrones, as you all might have heard, only 13 hours left in the show. They have pushed production out to begin later in the year because now winter is here. So they're wanting to film more in the fall, more in the winter to get the cold locations. So not only is season 6, is it 6? So you got 13 more. Yeah. So they're wanting to do the whole show in 73 hours, which is kind of a really bizarre number to pull off. But next season is going to premiere in summer, and it's only going to be 7 episodes. So not only do we have to wait longer to get Game of Thrones, but it's going to be a shorter time span. And then the next season following that, season 8 technically will be 6 episodes. And you know what? And I'm kind of hoping, even though they want to do it in 73 hours, that they prefer to give us like maybe 4-hour-long episodes and then do the finale in 2 hours, because I don't want to just see a regular 1-hour finale that's hopefully going to wrap all this up, because there's still a lot more to come and a lot more they can do. So a shortened season for the next season of Game of Thrones starting late, but hoping, they keep it in mind now that these last 2 seasons have really gained a lot of steam, and last season being so tight and so good that they're going to deliver on all the all the events that are going to start clashing together. Should make for an epic last 13 hours of the show. So that's coming down as well. So a lot of fun stuff happened at Comic-Con. We got to see a lot of fun stuff that's coming down the pipe here. And that concludes this particular episode of the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. You can check us out on gsmcpodcast.com or iTunes or any place that you can get podcast subscriptions. You can follow us on Facebook and or Twitter, whichever your preferred platform is. Check out other fine programming as well. I have been Drew. You have been wonderful. Thanks for tuning in. This concludes your broadcast day.